Okay, so we've already taught how to make stuff fly out of our enemies when we kill them. So the next thing I want to go into is that spawning process. Okay, right now I have a green and a yellow box, and right above them, you can see it here in this editor, I actually have triggers, like, set up here, where they're invisible boxes over top of these two. You can see how that's highlighted. And then, like box 1 and box 2 are the floor boxes, but then I have these hidden boxes up here. Yeah, these two. I should probably name those better. What these hidden boxes do is you can see that both of the hidden boxes have the trigger exit, enter exit. This is a trigger that you can get from the wiki, but basically the script looks like this. Okay, so what happens is I explained this in the music video and it didn't work the way I wanted, and that's because I wasn't inside the box. Remember, if you use enter exit, it's only inside or outside, so you want to use an invisible box with no physics on it to determine this. If you make it the floor, as the character walks on it, he's constantly like triggering, and then he's not triggering, he's triggering and then not triggering, so it doesn't work very well. So you have this update physics script, and then first what it does is right here. If it's had a collision, this one. No, if Celta entered. Yeah, you got to start down here. So when you have a collision through the collision script, it sets it has collision to true, and then it calls the output it collided. That way you can still use it as a normal every time something touches it, and the whole time something touches it, use this on collide. And then if the entered is false, which it is false by default, it'll call an output entered. It'll set entered to true and exited to false. And what that'll do is then it'll come back through, it'll still call, but it'll hit this and say, oh no, I already entered, and skip this part. So it only calls this on enter output once. Then it goes to update physics. Update physics happens a certain amount of frames a second. I've talked about that a couple times. It's it's a certain set amount of times a second, not based on frame rate. So then if the self-entered is true, which it would be true now because this set it to true, and if it has not had a collision, then what it's going to do is it's going to say self-exited. If self-exited is false, then it makes it true. It calls out an exit, and then it enters the value false. So basically what this does is it only calls on exit and on enter once when it's entered or exited. And then we're going to tie that enter exit using the flow graph editor to our actual spawners. And I'll show you the spawner scripts before I get too much into that. Alright, so first we have a set spawner. And I'm doing this two different ways to show you there are two different ways to do this. We could do this zombie path and then make it a path for the zombie prefab. And then at the beginning it's going to set its position so that later whenever we local zombie prefab this path, we can start the zombie script, set its position, and then enable it. Before we didn't start or enable the health boxes because if you look, they don't have a start or an enable script. They don't need it. It's just a use script. That's all they need. So, but the zombie does have a start and an enable in his monster AI. So we need to call those. The start will set him all up to go, and then once he's in position we'll enable him and he'll turn to attack the player or do whatever you have that AI doing. This way only creates one set type of zombie. I'll show you. It only creates one entity. By that I mean you see how that guy's got the hood on? It's that model with the hoodie. And every time I trigger it, it's the zombie with the hoodie. Every single time. I don't care for that so much. So I do this random spawner. So once again, I'm going to create a table. And then in the start, I'm going to load all the different zombie prefabs, 0 through 4, because there's 5 of them. And then I'm going to instead do a zombie to spawn math random 0, 4. So it'll randomly pick between 0 and 4 which zombie to spawn. And then it'll spawn that zombie like I showed you in the previous video for the health and ammo box. So this one, on the green side, will actually randomly pick which of the excuse me, I'm getting dumb. The green side, once I collide with its box, will randomly pick the model, the prefab it's going to spawn. So it randomly picked the hoodie zombie, but now it picked the t-shirt zombie, the button-up shirt zombie. And this time, or the white shirt on. And this time, it's another zombie with the right shirt on. I mean, it's possible to re-pick the same thing because you're randomly picking numbers. And, yeah, that pretty much covers spawning. So I'm going to pop this script back up here for a second. You guys, I'm just going to cycle through all these scripts so that you guys can copy them, just jump to the end of the video kind of a thing. So this is for the health box. This is for the ammo box. We didn't use player. For the AI, just look at the end of the death here. This gives you directions on how to implement that. I'll actually go through the AI, but this is the death manager script. In the monster script, you need to add these lines and also these lines in their positions. You'll also need to come up and set these two here. And I'm actually going to add that real quick while you're here to this. So, add to header these two scripts. Otherwise the timer doesn't work. Alright, sorry about that. Here's the entered exit script. This is also available through the wiki. I show you how to get that in the sounds and music video. This is the random spawner. And to change the prefabs, you just change those prefab names. And then this is to spawn the set zombie. Or the set prefab. It could be anything. You could even have it be like a health box spawner. Whenever something happens, it calls the input and it spawns one health box. And then the flow graph editor gets set up this way. On enter, trigger spawn. On enter, trigger spawn. And I've explained this a couple times before. Whenever you have a call output, self-component call output, this line, that's what makes it say on exit, on enter, on collide in the flow graph editor. On collide, on enter, on exit. And then in here we have a call input on the spawn function. So that -- in causes us to call the input here, and then you just connect them with the line so that when it's triggered at enter, it'll spawn the zombie. Yeah, that'll cover this video. I'll go ahead and do a quick setup on having the zombies drop weapons as well, adding it to that table, and then I'll show you how that's done.